In Los Angeles, a new debate rages over protest tools, specifically strobe lights, lasers, and dot sights. The City Council's proposed ban aims to enhance safety but has sparked fierce opposition, with critics calling it an attack on free speech. Supporters argue these devices are used to disorient and harm, not to express ideas. Opponents warn the ordinance is so vague it could criminalize everyday items like a phone flashlight or a bike light. The controversy highlights the challenge of balancing public safety with the right to protest. As the city attorney drafts the ordinance, every word is under scrutiny, and legal challenges seem inevitable. The outcome will set a precedent for how Los Angeles navigates security and civil liberties. The movement to regulate protest lighting devices in Los Angeles has gained urgency following a series of high-profile confrontations in Echo Park and Hollywood. These incidents have brought the issue of protester tactics and police response into sharp focus, sparking heated debate across the city. During these protests, law enforcement officials reported being targeted with high-intensity strobe lights and powerful laser beams. Protesters used these devices to disorient officers, create confusion, and, according to police, to push back against crowd control efforts. Police say these tactics not only endangered officers' safety, but also escalated already tense situations, making it harder to maintain order and increasing the risk of violence or injury on both sides. The clearing of Echo Park Lake's homeless encampment in particular became a flashpoint for this debate. The operation, already controversial due to the displacement of unhoused residents, was further complicated by the use of strobe lights and lasers. Protesters allegedly used strobe lights to disrupt police operations, making it difficult for officers to see and communicate, and raising concerns about the potential for chaos and unintended consequences. Similar tactics were reported during protests in Hollywood, where the use of intense lighting devices became a common strategy among demonstrators seeking to challenge police presence. In some cases, lasers were even pointed at police helicopters and officers on the ground, raising alarms about the potential for serious injury or accidents during these volatile events. Supporters of the proposed ban argue that these incidents are clear evidence that strobe lights and lasers are being weaponized, rather than used as tools for free expression or peaceful protest. They point to news reports and first-hand accounts as proof of the growing threat. As a result, these events have given significant political momentum to the proposed ordinance, reframing the debate around protest lighting as a matter of public safety and community well-being, rather than simply a question of protest rights. Understanding this context is crucial to grasping why the Los Angeles City Council is now moving to outlaw these devices at protests, and why the issue has become such a flashpoint in the city's ongoing conversation about protest, policing, and public safety. City Council members backing the ban say it's about protecting public safety and police officers. They argue that using strobe lights and lasers to disorient people is not protected speech, but a dangerous act. When officers are blinded, their ability to respond safely is compromised, increasing the risk of escalation. The ban is framed as a de-escalation tool, aiming to prevent injuries and chaos at protests. Medical experts warn that high-powered lasers can cause permanent eye damage, while strobes can trigger seizures. Supporters insist the goal is not to silence protest, but to keep demonstrations non-violent and safe for all. The challenge is drafting a law precise enough to target harmful conduct without punishing peaceful protesters. Law enforcement groups and city officials have emerged as the most vocal supporters of the proposed ban, emphasizing the critical importance of officer safety during protests and public demonstrations. They argue that the unpredictable nature of large gatherings can quickly escalate, and that officers need every possible protection to do their jobs effectively and return home safely. The Los Angeles Police Protective League, which represents rank-and-file officers, claims that officers have increasingly become targets of strobe lights and high-powered lasers. These devices, they say, can temporarily blind or disorient officers, leaving them vulnerable in already chaotic and high-stress situations. In some cases, officers have reported lingering vision problems or headaches after being targeted, raising concerns about both immediate and long-term safety. Councilman Joe Buscaino, who previously served as a police officer, has been especially outspoken. He refers to these devices as weapons, not legitimate protest tools, and insists that their use crosses a line from free speech into dangerous territory. According to Buscaino, Allowing such devices at protests puts both officers and the public at unnecessary risk. Supporters of the ban argue that shining a strobe or laser directly into an officer's eyes is not a form of peaceful protest, but rather an act that can cause harm and confusion. They compare it to physical assault, emphasizing that such actions can provoke panic, escalate tensions, and potentially lead to unintended confrontations between police and demonstrators. Advocates also point out that the ban is not just about protecting police. They argue that when officers are disoriented or unable to see clearly, the risk of mistakes increases, not just for law enforcement but for peaceful protesters and innocent bystanders as well. In their view, keeping officers alert and focused is essential for maintaining order and ensuring that demonstrations remain safe for everyone involved. The ordinance is often compared to existing bans on bringing bricks, knives, or other potentially dangerous objects to protests. While such items may be legal to possess elsewhere, their presence in large crowds is considered a serious safety hazard. Supporters say that weaponized lights should be treated the same way, prohibited in the context of mass gatherings to prevent harm. Proponents see this measure as a necessary update to keep pace with evolving protest tactics. As technology changes, so do the tools used in demonstrations, and law enforcement believes that regulations must adapt to address new threats and challenges as they arise. Ultimately, the goal is to make protests safer for everyone, police officers, demonstrators, and the general public alike. By setting clear boundaries on what is and isn't allowed, supporters hope to foster an environment where people can exercise their rights without fear of violence or escalation. For those in favor, banning weaponized lights is simply common sense, a practical step to protect both those on the front lines and the communities they serve. Opponents argue the ban is overly broad and risks criminalizing innocent behavior. Civil liberties groups warn that vague language could make common items like phones or bike lights illegal at protests. Council members against the ban say it gives police too much discretion, risking selective enforcement and suppression of dissent. Critics argue that lights can be a form of protest expression, especially at night, and banning them targets speech. They fear the ordinance could set a precedent for banning other everyday items. Opponents suggest existing assault laws are enough to address intentional harm, making a broad ban unnecessary. The fight is over whether the law targets dangerous conduct or threatens fundamental rights. The proposal's journey through City Hall has exposed deep political divisions, highlighting the complexities of governance in a diverse city. The Public Safety Committee first debated the motion with sharp arguments on both sides. Proponents argued it was essential for public safety, while opponents feared it could lead to over-policing and infringe on personal freedoms. The full City Council passed it 9-5, but dissenters warned of constitutional risks and overreach. They cautioned that the law might face significant legal challenges, potentially costing the city both time and resources. The vote directed the city attorney to draft the ordinance, a process requiring precise definitions of banned devices. This task is particularly challenging given the need to balance enforcement with civil liberties. The challenge? Write a law that targets harmful strobe lights without sweeping up harmless items. Legal experts must carefully consider the language to avoid ambiguity and ensure the law is enforceable. Once drafted, the ordinance returns to the council for further debate and a final vote. This stage is crucial as council members will scrutinize every detail to ensure the law's effectiveness and fairness. The outcome hinges on whether the language is seen as fair and effective, or too broad to survive legal scrutiny. The council must weigh the potential benefits against the risks of unintended consequences. The legislative process is far from over, and the final law could look very different from the original proposal. Amendments and revisions are likely as stakeholders voice their concerns and suggestions. The stakes balancing safety, free speech, and the risk of unintended consequences. The council's decision will set a precedent, impacting future legislation and the community's trust in their elected officials. The biggest challenge is defining what counts as a prohibited strobe. The current proposal's broad language could ban everything from weaponized lasers to ordinary bike lights. Critics warn this ambiguity invites arbitrary enforcement and legal challenges. Everyday items like flashing bike lights or phone apps could be swept up in the ban, creating confusion and risk for protesters. The city attorney must craft a definition that targets only malicious use, not common safety features. Any definition based on brightness or flash rate must be scientifically precise and easy to understand. The line between a safety tool and a weapon is thin and hard to draw in law. This definitional crisis is at the heart of the ordinance's controversy. As the ordinance is drafted, legal threats loom large. Civil rights groups vow to sue if the law is too broad, arguing it violates First Amendment rights and chills protest. The main legal challenge: overbreadth. If the law bans too much protected speech, it's unconstitutional. Critics also cite vagueness, warning that unclear definitions give police too much power and risk arbitrary arrests. The city must prove the law is narrowly tailored to serve public safety without infringing on rights. With less restrictive alternatives available, like enforcing existing assault laws, the city faces an uphill legal battle. The fight over protest lights may soon move from City Hall to the courts, with the outcome shaping protest rights for years to come.